Have you ever tried to communicate an idea and become very frustrated by the fact that how you wanted to say it or what you wanted to achieve from it really didn't connect with the person that you were presenting to? This might be somebody in power. This might be somebody that you're just trying to convince to think about things in the way that you have, or to establish kind of a thought pattern or a strategy of where you're wanting to head. If that's ever been your experience, then I think today's conversation, 3 Minutes with Chad, will be helpful for you. What I'm talking about is a book that primarily is written by a gentleman named Tim Pollard. It's called The Compelling Communicator. You can buy it on any of the big book retailers. And it has a specific methodology that Tim takes you through to help understand how people think, but more importantly, how we should also communicate to people in a manner that makes sense. I use this a lot of times to prep for big presentations that I'm giving to clients, or presentations that I'm giving in a public speaking scenario where I really have a lot of information that I'm trying to condense into a very little area. I heard it said one time that Winston Churchill was asked if he could give a 3-minute talk next week. And his response was, no, I'll need at least a few months to plan for that, from what I understand. And he said that the reason he needed that amount of time is whenever you give me such a compressed amount of time, I need more time to develop and communicate the idea. And that's really what I think is happening inside of this format as well. So I'm going to give you just a taste of what it looks like. What you're doing through this communication technique is you are beginning to open up and talk about what the problem analysis is. And you're doing things like looking at what it is are the pain points, what are the things that really summarize what the big picture problem is that we need to be focused on here from a business level standpoint. Not typically talking about here's a technical issue, but here's the big business level issue, the big idea that we're trying to address and why it's causing issues for you today. And it even needs to have attention pressed on it, right? You don't want to spend time on something that really isn't a problem that doesn't need to be fixed. Then what we do is we begin to move into what we call the first insight. In other words, here's what we understand about this problem, and here's the thing that we want to help you understand that will help as we move through this conversation. Then we'll transition into the second insight, where we then go through that iteration again of here's the second thing that we see about this, and then on through the transition and the data that supports that into the third insight. Once the third insight is done, we move into a final closing statement saying, this is what we believe based off of the data and the insights that we're bringing forth. And then finally, after that closing statement, we go to a call to action saying, this is what we are recommending that we do and what we're asking for you to participate in. The call to action is probably, whenever you get down to it, you really want to move there the fastest, and you really need to think about the insights and let it drive the call to action as a part of that. Tim does a great job in the book of explaining this. There's actually a tool called the Message Architect app, messagearchitectapp.com. I'll put the links in the descriptions or the video description below, but feel free to take a look at that as well. If you have any questions about it, let me know. He's written another book that is extremely helpful, and hope you find this enjoyable.